Most of what mattered in my life didn't feel important when it was happening. My name is Daniel Harry, and I'm 88 years old. And only now, at the end of it all, I can see clearly what time quietly took from me, the things I thought I could always return to, but never did. When you're young, time feels like something you own. You spend it without thinking, the way a child spends coins, certain there will always be more in your pocket. I was no different. I had plans, responsibilities, ambitions, and I told myself that the small things could wait. I grew up in a modest home, nothing special, but full of noise and life. My mother used to call me in the evenings while I sat outside with friends, telling stories that felt urgent back then, but mean nothing to me now. She would say, "Come sit with me for a while," and I would answer, "Later." I always said later. I didn't know that later was a promise. Life doesn't keep. As I got older, life began to move faster. Work came, then marriage, then children. Each stage felt like the most important one, and I told myself I was doing what needed to be done. I worked long hours, came home tired, and believed that providing was the same as being present. My wife would sit across from me at dinner, sometimes quiet, sometimes trying to start a conversation, and I would nod, half listening, my mind still somewhere else. I thought there would be time to really talk, to really listen, once things settled down. But things never settle down the way you expect them to. My children grew up in front of me, but somehow it feels like I missed it. I remember moments, small flashes, my son running toward me with something in his hand, proud and excited, and me saying, "Not now, I'm busy." My daughter asking if I could attend something at her school, and me saying, "I'll try," already knowing I wouldn't make it. At the time, those choices felt small, necessary even. You tell yourself you're doing it for them, that one day they will understand, and maybe they do understand. But understanding doesn't give you those moments back. Years passed the way they always do, quietly, without asking permission. My parents grew older, slower. I noticed it, of course, but not in a way that made me stop. I still visited less than I should have, still said I'll come next week, and sometimes next week never came. The last conversation I had with my father was short, ordinary, nothing that felt like an ending. If I had known, I would have stayed longer. I would have asked more questions. I would have listened to the stories I used to find repetitive and unimportant. Now I would give anything to hear them again. There is a strange thing about memory. It doesn't hold on to the big achievements the way you expect it to. The promotions, the deals, the long days that once felt so important, they fade. What stays are the quiet moments you overlooked. A cup of tea you didn't sit down for, a walk you postponed, a conversation you rushed through. These are the things that come back to you, not as clear pictures, but as absences. You begin to feel what was missing more than what was there. My wife passed away 10 years ago. Even now, saying it feels distant, like I'm talking about someone else's life. After she was gone, I found myself sitting in the same rooms we shared, noticing things I had never noticed before. The way she arranged the books, the small habits she had, the routines that once blended into the background of my busy life. I realized then how much of her I had taken for granted, not in a careless way, but in a quiet, ordinary way that feels harmless until it isn't. There were evenings she wanted to talk, really talk, and I was too tired or too distracted. There were moments she reached out, not with words but with presence, and I didn't meet her there. At the time, I believed there would always be another evening. There wasn't. After she was gone, the house became very quiet. Not just silent, but empty in a way that makes you aware of every second passing. That's when time starts to feel different. It no longer rushes, it stretches. And in that stretching, you begin to see your life more clearly. I started thinking about all the times I postponed living, not the big dreams, but the small, ordinary things. Sitting with someone without looking at the clock, listening without waiting for your turn to speak, being somewhere fully instead of halfway. I used to believe that life was made of milestones: education, work, family, success. And those things do matter in their own way, but they are not what stay with you in the end. What stays are the moments in between. The problem is, those are the easiest ones to ignore. I remember one particular afternoon many years ago. My daughter was still young, maybe 7 or 8. She came to me with a book in her hand and asked if I could read it with her. I was busy with something that felt important at the time. I told her, "Later, I promise." She waited for a while, then she went to her room. I never went after her that day. I don't remember what I was working on. I don't remember why it felt so urgent. But I remember that moment. Time has a way of taking things without making a sound. There is no warning, no clear line where you can say this is the last time. You don't know when you're seeing someone for the last time, or when you're experiencing a moment that will never return. And because you don't know, you treat it like it will come again. That is the quietest mistake we make. As I sit here now, at 88, I don't feel the weight of my failures as much as I feel the weight of my absences, the places I wasn't fully there, the people I didn't give enough of myself to, not because I didn't care, but because I believed there would always be more time. There isn't always more time. If I could speak to the younger version of myself, I wouldn't tell him to work less or to chase different goals. I would tell him something much simpler, something I only understand now. I would tell him to notice. Notice the way your mother looks at you when she calls your name. Notice the way your wife waits for you to sit down beside her. Notice the way your children look at you, as if you are the center of their world. Because one day those moments will be gone, and you won't even remember when they disappeared. And that is what time took from me. Not in a dramatic way, not all at once, but slowly, quietly, piece by piece. It took the ordinary days I didn't pay attention to. It took the conversations I rushed through. It took the chances I had to be present, and replaced them with memories that feel incomplete. If you are listening to me now, and you still have time, then listen carefully to what an old man has learned too late. The life you think you're building is not made of the things you're chasing. It is made of the moments you are living right now, the ones that feel small and unimportant. Don't wait for a better time to be present. Don't assume there will be another chance to say what matters, because one day you will look back like I do now, and you will see that the most valuable parts of your life were never the big events. They were the quiet ones you almost missed, and by then you won't be able to go back and live them again.